All right. Good evening. This is the what is it? October program for Bay High, and every second Tuesday of the month since 1989, we've had a talk on this evening, except for 2001 when the World Trade Center came down, and also the first month of COVID. And tonight we're going to have some people from Google speaking about, well, their work in making new paradigms for accessibility. And I will start by just telling you a little bit about BayChi. BayChi is an ACM special interest group that is a nonprofit. And we have a little membership fee. If you can bear to pay us, then we continue to have these the IT work, and maybe have a little bit of food for people when they come to the program meetings, and other things that we need to spend money on. And we run a volunteer organization, and it's, well, I'm in charge of programs. I'm also the chair. I don't care to take on all the roles. So any of you that want to become more involved, please take over my job. And we have people, Edwin Lee and Nikki Billingham, putting things online. We also have a little project right now that of redoing our web that Edwin and Ramya are working on. But we have Steve Williams doing a lot of the techie stuff, and we've got a newsletter that you can get, and I hear that Anoop might be getting it. Anyway, that's the first Tuesday of the month. We have a meeting where we just hang out online and talk about our lives and what we're doing, but most importantly, think about what we're going to do as an organization. So, for example, on November 7th, we're all going to go to lunch at the Internet Archive, where we're going to get a tour and a free lunch up in San Francisco. So you might want to show up for that. We're going to have an RSVP. I'm going to put that online tonight or something. So that's an example. We're also going to start a new speaker series that is just us. So it's going to be, the first one's going to be Edwin Lee, and it's going to be next month or this month. It's next month. I think it's the 21.
We're looking at November 18th.
Yeah, okay, that's right. November 18th. So that's that. Oh, and here's some people that are here tonight. So Anoop Sinha, I'm sorry, I'm gonna not know how to pronounce your names, is here, and he leads a team. He's a research director. That makes me worry that he doesn't write programs, but I bet you being at Google, he does write programs anyway, and works in new experiences, works with fantastic team, and some of the best people in the world on these things. And he worked at Meta before that, and other great places. We have Renelito Santos, and he's also a program manager. This program management stuff makes me worry that you guys are getting bureaucratic. And he works on new paradigms for human-computer interaction accessibility. So that reminds me of some of us have gone and visited the Federation for the Blind, and there's a lot of work. Oh, we had Vanderheiden, Greg Vanderheiden, says gave a talk, and he's literally the grandfather of accessibility. He's put accessibility into Microsoft, Google, Sun, and Apple as kind of his evening activity while he's a professor at University of Michigan in Wisconsin. So he gave a talk here a couple of years ago. It's an interesting talk, very, very pragmatic. I don't think it was about new things. It was about blocking and tackling and making things happen. So we have recent advancements in AI models are creating new opportunities. Oh, I'm so surprised. And the question is how that impacts various things. And this is a very specific and important thing, which is there are the disabled and the not currently disabled, in my view. And that's where accessibility becomes critical for us. I'd be fascinated to see how this all plays out tonight. So thank you for coming, and I'll turn it over to you guys to take over. And please let me stop sharing so you can.
Okay. Thank you. And let me try to share the tab again.
Yep.
Coming through. And I will go into slideshow.
Oh, and do you guys want people to ask as you go? Or
Yeah,
you want-
definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
everybody jump in,
Yeah.
and make sure that they know that you're interested.
Yeah, let's just make this a back and forth conversation. We certainly have some things we'd like to share and present, but it would be really excellent to just keep talking throughout today. So thanks for having us. I'm Anoop Sinha. I'm at Google in research and work on various topics in new experience research and human-computer interaction. Currently working on things that are further out in the future, but over the last couple of years have been working on this research topic of accessibility.
Renelito, Delos Santos. I am a technical program manager at Google. I co-lead this research, been on this with Anoop from the very beginning, and it's exciting to see it develop and really be impactful for the communities that we are working with.
Great. And so this research topic started for us a couple of years ago when, with all the AI that's happening, it's certainly the case that there's a lot happening that is changing user interfaces. And particularly, we saw an opportunity to just try to come together and pull together a bit of a research plan, a bit of a research vision around how multimodal agents can really transform how we're approaching accessibility. And if we think of this motivation, if we think of changes in interface paradigms, we've had quite a few, for the last half century or longer. And each of those changes have led to new opportunities to take a look at various topics in human-computer interaction. One could argue that we're now at this point where AI is giving us a chance to take another look at how we're interfacing with computers. And with that, multimodal agents, particularly the increased use of speech, vision, gesture, that's what we actually mean. That's where multimodal interaction is finally coming back or coming through. There's been plenty of work and research in this area, but it's something impactful right now. And so what do we mean by multimodal agent interfaces? Well, 3 dimensions. First is that there's an agent. And in the agent, in this case, it's such an overloaded term. It's almost like one of those terms that is almost meaningless because it's used in so many ways at this point. But we'll take it more in the term of the human-computer interaction side, assistant, advisor, something that helps somebody with their tasks. And the multimodal side of this is something around moving beyond direct manipulation, thinking about speech input, other sensory input and output streams. And multimodal also is a new opportunity given the advancement of AI models. And last but certainly not least is contextual interfaces, the ability to personalize and even adapt to the person who's using them. And we think this is actually very important and very much an opportunity in the case of accessibility. Can we make situational adaptive accessibility?
As long as you're interested. I think of 2 kinds of agents, like advisory and assistant. And so when you have an assistive agent, it does it for you. An advisor one teaches you. How do you feel about that dichotomy and how that plays out for in your work?
Well, I was going to say, I think both are relevant and both are more feasible now than ever, in terms of their ability. Adapting includes the agent, even maybe going further than those, but including both of those, including some understanding of you at a really deep level. There's research now on theory of mind. Can an agent actually understand where you're at in your own mindset and assist you, but also teach you because maybe it's trying to guide you, across where you need to be guided. I'd say it's very relevant, to bring up both at this point. In fact, I just wanted to also mention before I forgot, as you can see down in one of our citations, a lot of the agent work, which really inspired us, this has Henry Lieberman and Chet Zelker, agents in the user interface, 2003. So, but it's Chet Zelker here, that inspired us around the agents, and it was Jake Wobrock and Sean Kane, who around the contextual, situational disabilities and situational.
Right.
Yeah, and better. Oh, that's who spoke, right? Yeah, exactly. And so I think that when we think of these ideas, they've been in the research community for a while, but the new models are giving us a chance to relook at them and take a look at these new applications. And last intro slide will be the next one. Let me just do that. And so with this, it gives us a chance to take a look at accessibility and this idea that the individuals have different needs, and everyone has accessibility needs at some stage in their life. And with that, can we actually provide adaptive, accessible experiences to everyone, where the multimodal agent is the paradigm that we'll be using, where the multimodal agent can adapt to those needs. Sometimes it might need to teach, sometimes it may need to assist, sometimes it may need to go even further and really cooperate with the person. And we'll show a little bit of this today. So here is our research thesis. Wherever there's a multimodal agent, adaptive and interactive accessibility can be natively built in. That's why we call it natively adaptive interfaces. Feel free to ask any questions along the way, but that was the research vision. And I wanted to start with just a couple of existing AI accessibility projects or products to actually ground us in some of the things that are out there today before we get into some of the research that we've been doing to influence the future. So the first one is, and this one is on Android from Google. This is called expressive captions. So if you have any media playing on Android, you can turn on expressive captions, and then it will show at the bottom. You can show captions called live captions. You can show any captions, and it'll just transcribe the audio into live captions. Expressive captions goes a little further, and let me just show you the video. Let me see. I'm not sure how smooth that is coming through. Probably not particularly smooth. For those online,
You might have to read it to us.
twice.
Oh, there it is.
You can see that what it's doing is, because the AI is on the fly interpreting the text and the audio, and also just show it on the next screen because you can spend a minute.
Pause it in the middle of it.
Yeah, I'll just show you this screen share as well. Slide. So you can see on the left, it's just doing the transcription of what's happening. But because the models are now becoming more sophisticated to actually understand some of the non-English, expressions such as gasps or other things, and then even volume and other sounds, you can create an expressive caption, which includes a variety of other different annotations. So for someone who's deaf or low hearing, it's just a chance to get more information from the captions. And these are actually something that was recently released from Google on Android. That one was for media that shows up on your Android device. There's actually a feature that's been out for a little while called Live Transcribe. That is for if someone is in a meeting or in even listening to some talk, like this talk, they can actually turn on Live Transcribe on their phone, and it's actually acting as a transcriber for whatever sound the phone will actually hear. So it's an on-the-fly transcription of what someone is saying. And it also can do just the English, but also some non-English sounds as well. And it uses speech recognition with real-time generation, and it's across 80 languages at the moment. So this is actually used almost like an enhancement of the hearing aid. It can tune into a person, but it does go further and transcribe what was actually said. And then the last existing project I wanted to mention, which is a product which was done.
I know what it is.
Yeah, please.
If as each of these things you can give a success story.
Yeah, sure.
Because I can think of someone, it's your platform.
Yeah, of course. Well, so expressive captions, and there's many examples, even live transcribed, there's many examples. This one, I actually have a video of an example. This is a Googler, which I'd like to share this video about. This was taking to some extent, the combination of both of those ideas, live transcribe, captioning, and actually help someone with dysarthritic speech, so has speech dissonances or just speech impairments. And actually, the Android phone will actually help through a specialized speech model, which is personalized, will actually help transcribe that speech to help that person be understood. So let me actually show this video. And
communication is a fundamental human need, and I think it's also a basic human right. I'm Audrey Lee, a brand manager at Google. More specifically, I'm a namer, and it's a lot of fun to say that I'm a professional namer. I had a type of muscular dystrophy that affects the way I speak. I have always loved making new friends, but when people can't understand me at first, they have trouble getting to know me. It's as if there's an invisible barrier between us. I believe technology can help bring down that barrier.
My name is Julie Catio. I'm a product manager at Google in the research team. Project Relate started in 2018 when we realized that our speech recognition technology could be improved to help people with speech impairments be better understood. Standard speech recognition doesn't always work as well for people with atypical speech because the algorithms have not been trained on samples of their speech. So we decided to create an app that would be custom trained on individuals' unique speech patterns.
We named the app Relate because of what it enables you to do.
To use the app, the first step is to record a set of phrases so it can get to know how you speak. The Relate app has 3 built-in features: Listen, Repeat, and Assistant. Listen transcribes everything you're saying in real time.
So I have a custom voice model now, and
Repeat repeats what you've just said in a clear computerized voice.
message has a hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate.
Ah, gotcha.
Thank you.
Assistant connects directly with your Google Assistant.
Take a selfie.
Okay, get ready.
I hope I live to see the day when disabled people can move through the world and expect the same level of connection as everyone else has. I think Project Relate is bringing us closer to a better future.
And Aubrey's an amazing person. I got the chance to meet her at Google, and this tool has been fundamental, on her day-to-day, which Project Relate. So I think there's thousands of Project Relate individuals who are using it for live transcribe. It's in the hundreds of thousands, in terms of maybe more. It might be in the millions. It's very much the captioning is definitely in the millions, for sure. Folks are using captions as kind of one of those features that's useful for those who are deaf or low hearing, but also we're all using captions, on YouTube and other places. And that's thematically about trying to bring accessibility to everybody.
So does that technology already recognize variations in accents in a given language?
In the case of live transcribe, yes, but it has been an effort to get it to 80 languages. There actually has been work. And then the accents is, again, more work that has been done. The models have gotten quite a bit better over the years through concerted effort around that, including accents and dialects and other things. Project Relate involves every individual doing a little bit of personalized data in order to personalize the model, but they're starting to generalize this as well. So it's actually getting into the core features of the recognition model, making it more accessible. Great. So let me turn it to Renelito, talk a little bit about emerging
Yes.
accessibility and research. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Anoop. Go to the next slide. So I thought we'd start off with yet another kind of nice short film, but it's called The Unstoppable Spirit, and it showcases some of the work we're doing or have done that's impacting a real user named Jack. So I don't want to steal the thunder, but you might also see a cameo from somebody in the room.
My name is Jack Chin. I'm a dad, a husband. I've run 9 marathons. I'm an endurance cyclist, an attorney, an author, a chef, a musician, and I happen to be blind. Blindness is such a part of who I am. It's almost difficult to think about what life would have been like without it. In 1981, I had cornea transplant surgery, and I remember being in the pre-op room, staring up at the light, thinking, I'm going to be able to see so much more just in a few short hours. But unfortunately, it was not successful. I had lost all the rest of my eyesight. It's just like someone drains all the hope out of you. Everything that you thought was going to be, it just melted away. There was a future I was walking into I didn't want to go to. But you walk. I'm writing a book about adversity and about the factors that led to people's success. And I use Google tools on a regular basis. Everything I do is through the computer. I can't see what's on the screen, but I can listen to it at up to 600 or 700 words a minute. I loaded the introduction of the book that I wrote into Google Docs and just going to listen to it and see how does it sound.
How the heck do you understand that?
Oh, it's taken years to practice just over time. I think this is sort of my normal everyday listening speed. I used to work for Google, but now participate on a voluntary basis at Google's New York offices on the research that Google is doing in accessibility.
Jack, it's good to see you. Hey, how are you?
Good to see you.
My name is Anoop Sinha. I'm a research director in technology and society at Google. I help lead efforts in new interface research, where we're working on new experiences to be helpful to everybody. Over 1 billion people have some form of disability according to the World Health Organization. And it's really important that the solutions that we try to build are accessible to all of them. I first met Jack when I was a graduate student. Since then, I've consistently called him up to talk about the different projects that I've been doing. So today, we've invited Jack to come in to try out some innovative voice interfaces that are also accessible. Our hope is that these features really give Jack a new experience and one that's helpful for him in his book research. So let's start out with Gemini Live. Gemini Live is a conversational audio interface within the Gemini app, which is an AI assistant. It allows a person to have a natural back and forth conversation with Gemini itself.
What are some of the common characteristics of people who are successful?
Successful people usually have a few things in common. First off, they're super passionate about what they do.
Are those characteristics demonstrative of people with adversities or people with success generally?
Those characteristics can apply to anyone striving for success.
I like the fact that it gave some high-level initial characteristics in sort of a more conversational way.
Notebook LM is a tool for thinking and understanding using information that you've provided. It allows you to upload your documents, and the audio overview feature allows you to create a podcast out of those documents. It does this by creating 2 AI hosts, which are having a conversation about that.
You know, maybe it felt like everything was just conspiring against you.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Do you think it was a true reflection of what you had written?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that there were certain aspects of it that were really good. Both tools are really cool for going through something that I wrote and then seeing how I can improve it. They'll be really useful for doing high-level initial research where you want to get the concepts into your mind. There's a lot of real potential in them for specialized as well as everyday uses. So I'm looking forward to seeing how those develop.
Generative AI has real power in making these interfaces easier to use. However, they're definitely not fail-safe. Human oversight is needed, but it can definitely be a great tool for helping creativity.
AI is the tool that will be able to help me as someone who's blind understand the world around me.
Being able to use technologies that allow for greater independence, I think just builds a person's sense of empowerment.
I'm hopeful Google's AI is going to be able to do so much more and help everyone to be on a more level playing field.
So that was amazing and inspiring, and Jack is just a type of person that I can't believe he can make sense of that 600 words per minute. Yeah, that's amazing. But you could see there's two things. So if you look at what was Jack using, the first one was Gemini Live, in which he was interacting with kind of a personal assistant, and in that, Jack's preferred method of interaction, right, is voice, because putting something on the screen is not going to help Jack. And so this is the opportunity that Anoop was kind of sharing about, agent, multimodal, and contextual, is that it would understand the context and understands that, Jack's preferred output is also audible output. I don't know if it could play at 600 words per minute, but at a very fast speed. And so it can adapt to Jack's needs and say, okay, if Jack is using this and I know Jack's needs, then let's have it be a voice interface and an audio output with very fast speech. And that's just an example of how the agent and the technology now is able to adapt to the user need by understanding the user.
So I've been around a lot of accessibility. I've done accessibility research, hung out with lots of people, friends. And what I find often is the accessibility community, people get, like the rest of us, comfortable with what they know. And sometimes they make a career out of pointing out the problems in accessibility and whatever. So I've seen even where a particular very, very high level person, they'd give him the best dog and he'd have this dog and the dog would get worse and worse and worse because he didn't really use the dog as a blind person. He depended on people, and he liked to depend on people because he was a people person and his job was a lobbyist and so on. So what I'm asking is, how do we deal with, even getting people to want to use new tools, but also how do we get them to improving themselves instead of sinking into a role that they can feel comfortable in as a person with accessibility needs?
Yeah, I think the one sort of theme that has popped up in our research, at least, has been that of personalization. And that everything you said,
We've seen.
I'll agree with it 100% in the sense that it's also kind of part of this idea of personalization. What we found in the research, and Renelito will cover more of this, is we talk to folks, they have different needs, they have different perspectives of what their needs are, and then they also have different preferences, around what tools they would like to use and how. And it is also the case that there are individuals who are comfortable with like screen readers today. And so our tools should adapt to the screen reader modality, in certain cases. But others would be saying, well, I'd actually prefer a voice direct interface, not using the screen reader, and adapting to that is the opportunity. So I would like to say this idea of adaptation really been top of our mind, because adaptation gets us into the place where, and it's something of a little bit of a reaction as well to the other usability. It's sort of an advancement over some of the very important usability tools that have been out there, because the very important usability tools have usually been an app. And when they've been an app, they've usually been, you learn how to use the app. But now we have the chance to say, oh, it's actually kind of more of an agent or a platform that's actually, and you'll see this, let me let Renelito share a little bit of research. It's a little bit more of a cooperative in arrangement and personalized as well.
So I just want to make one more thought about that, which is, as I talked earlier about, physical therapy, occupational therapy stuff that I watched today.
Yeah.
A lot of therapists will say, everyone does the physical therapy while they're there. And the question is, a lot of the purpose of these people is to push you out of your comfort zone. And if you say, oh, what do people prefer? Sometimes they sink down to a lower level than they could achieve.
Fair point.
And it's very difficult to have that motivational schema. And I don't know, do you work on that some? Do you think about that stuff some?
Well, it's incoming in the view that agents, and I'm speaking more generally, not in just the accessibility scenario, it's incoming that the multimodal agents will be proactive. And they can be proactive in such a way that they're also working over long periods of time.
Yeah.
I don't think that's quite yet a capability in any real commercial Gemini Live or anything like that, but it's emerging in research that how do you actually maintain that long context? So let's say someone has a goal, and this isn't the accessibility scenario, but someone has a goal to learn something or to get through a certain habit. I think the agents are going to be there, to actually help with that proactively more than just based on reactively. And so maybe you set the goal to, over the course of the week, do a bunch of your exercises. Your agent could be there helping you with that.
I hate to say it, but I was going to bring one more example up. So I made this thing called Car Coach, and it had affirmations and criticisms on the dashboard.
Fair.
And I thought, okay, the Japanese will put all the criticism over the top, and Americans don't want only affirmations. Turns out that if you gave criticisms at all while the people were driving, they made more mistakes. And by the way, when we showed off the demo, everyone thought that the criticisms were working. We had to run real objective experiments to realize that they were making more mistakes.
Yes.
And it was stressing them out.
Yes.
And so no criticisms, right, was what was needed. And then the question, then you have half of your arsenal to try to get people to drive better. And it's anyway.
These ideas where the AI or the agents are actually more capable on their social understanding or behaviors, which is, it's just a full suite of things. This is a huge thing. It's a huge area of research because it's difficult and not solved, but we're getting close to the point where we're modeling it. And what would those be? How would it be both responsible and also appropriate, for those scenarios? That's interesting research, and it definitely. You want to cover a little bit of this research?
Yeah, I can jump in. Just before I go, I think something that came up in like Sean Kane's research, the ability-based design is designing for a wide range of abilities, right? And I think here the opportunity with a multimodal agent is that if that is your primary interface, then the adaptation actually enables that. And so that was kind of the exciting part, is that this single type of interface, as long as it understands your needs, and the application can adapt and meet the needs of different abilities across the spectrum. Okay, so gonna show a prototype and some of the research that we did in 2024 in this next session or section. So this one is, once we had this kind of thesis, one of the things that we did was we built a couple prototypes to try to prove it. And this particular prototype was around how the problem space is, if I am blind or if I have low vision, can I use a personal device to help navigate my personal space or the near-term space? It could be a room, it could be wherever you're at, but can I use a personal device to help navigate? And so we built a prototype, and in the next slide, I'll show you a couple of the features that we had built.
I'm looking for milk. Can you tell me what?
All right, let's go one at a time.
Okay, one at a time. So why don't we play all three? They're very short, and then we can chat a little bit.
Can you describe this room for me?
Certainly, I see a living room with a gray couch at 10 o'clock, a floor lamp at 12 o'clock, and a white fireplace at 2 o'clock. There is also a gray ottoman at 1 o'clock and a small white heater near the fireplace. Do you want me to continue describing other objects in the room?
What are my options?
Here are the milk options I see. 1. Earth's Own Oat Milk Original. 2. Nutrinor 2% Organic Milk. 3. Earth's Own Oat Milk Original. Do you want to know more about any of these?
Is this a 2% milk? Is this the one?
Yes, that's the Nutrinor 2% Organic Milk. It appears to be from the Lac Saint-Jean region of Saguenay, Quebec. The carton also...
Thank you. I'm at home now. Can you use minimal descriptions?
Okay, minimal descriptions.
What are my options for fruit?
Apples, oranges, pears, mango.
Can you tell me where are the apples?
Apples are at 9 o'clock.
Is this apple ripe?
Yes, the apple looks ripe.
So a couple things there, right? Starting with the actionable directions. If you want to navigate your space, you have a device, you kind of point it helps you understand what is that space. And then the second thing that we found in our research is just understanding the space, but it's not enough. You want to orient them to key things in the field of view. And so the clock directions was one thing that we tried. You know, you have a lamp at 1 o'clock and you have a couch at 10 o'clock or something like that, just to give them an understanding of the personal space and their relative position. And then what we found is, well, that's not enough. They want to engage with the world, right? And so you can see here in the second video, it's like, okay, what's on the side of my fridge? And it's like these cartons, which one's the milk? And so using the device then to then identify key things and engage with it became this next step. And then lastly, it's like, okay, I have a device that does this, but I want to configure it. When I am at home alone, I don't want the agent to be long and drawn out and describe everything around me. I just want it to be succinct so I could configure that experience just through the agent. You can see here, it kind of encapsulates a couple of use cases, but it does help with the accessibility. You can see if you are blind or have vision issues, just having this device, so long as you can point, allows you to engage with the world and be a little bit more independent.
So quick question.
Yep.
So I could imagine walking into that space and saying, is there a place for 3 people to sit here? I bet you'd do a good job of that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And the interpretation of the space with this camera vision input is a relatively new phenomenon. At the time we were doing the research, the models were just barely out, but now we can conclusively say that this model is publicly available, which is great. You could build this, and we actually have some pointers for some code to go build this even today. And then that, because I did, my PhD was on multimodal interaction. Yeah, that didn't work. When I was doing grad work, it was very painful to get any sort of interpretation from the model that was at all reasonable, no less speech and camera input together. It's all pretty tough stuff.
Pull up and see at Oregon Center and certainly Chris Schmandt did definitely work and a long time ago.
Made progress. And now it's off the shelf, which is kind of exciting, which gives us a chance to think about it in the case of blind and low vision users and supporting them more directly in an adaptive way. Yeah.
May I ask a sort of a pedantic question?
Definitely.
Go ahead.
Pedantic.
So we all understand clocks. What do you do for young people who don't understand?
It's actually in a later slide. So yeah, so it doesn't work for everybody. But the important part is, could you express that to the agent and change the orientation paradigm? That should be.
Yeah, in fact, after we did this, a number of folks were said they don't like clocks. There's actually, I think it's one of the comments. Clocks is confusing.
Yeah.
Changing that to left, right, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right is just an adaptation.
Yeah.
In fact, it's a prompt-based adaptation. It's kind of trivial to implement. That's at runtime. You can do it. So it's such an easy way that it becomes a configurable feature.
And do people do better with that or not?
When it switches,
It depends on the user. I think again, it depends on their preference. Yeah.
Yeah.
And may I ask a sort of a more serious question than that, which is, I'm sitting here listening to this, and this all sounds, fabulous, and I love these stories. But what inherently is important about it automatically being responsive, as opposed to a person just saying, yeah, I can understand 600 words a minute, or I want to use it this way or that way, as opposed to them overtly saying it. I'm just curious about this native adaptability part of it.
So maybe to make sure I understood the question, in the case of this, we are saying that they can just tell the agent what they would like, meaning the adaptation will happen because they're conversing with the agent and saying, I'd like it faster, I'd like it slower. Was that, I don't think that was your question though. So I just want to make sure.
Well, no, that was sort of my question about, because I'm just thinking about like old, like screen readers and things like that, where the stories are always been about a person can speed it up, or slow it down if they don't understand as quickly. So that's really my question. Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. So this is kind of like, I'd say implementation wise, one could think of it like there's a bunch of settings in this thing. And what you're doing through your voice is you're actually just changing the settings that are in there. But that's actually not the actual way it will actually get implemented in the long run with these models. Because what's actually happening in terms of those configurations is it's a little bit closer to just natural language sitting around and for the model to actually interpret. It's not just, just settings that are in some checkboxes or other things that are actually there. The model itself is effectively using, if it were today, you can just use a prompt, to actually have the preference for the person.
Can I make a comment on this?
Yeah, please.
So in the 80s, there was this big push for user models where people would configure things, and these, .chsrc and Unix and stuff allowed people to do any damn thing they wanted to, and they didn't. But not only did they not, but it made it so other people couldn't use their systems when they did, and they would forget how they'd set it up otherwise. So the adaptive world came along, and it's much more exciting in that it's doing it without having to learn a new language, and it's doing it in a way where it can back off as it needs to. So that's some of the advertisement for this style of interface. Not to say that there isn't value in configuring something to somebody that's quadriplegic so that they can do things that they couldn't otherwise, but it'd be much more exciting if we could make it so that they can program it themselves without having to learn our arcane approaches.
Right. Yeah, it's an unsolved, it's not quite there yet in terms of this magic adaptation, and adaptive interfaces has always been overpromised, underdelivered in a lot of ways. But it's actually quite a bit closer, to something practical that is what we've seen, and increasingly so because of the way the models are effectively using language now, as kind of core for understanding. Yeah, please.
I had maybe a small technical question with regard to using clocks as a framework of guidance. When you tell me something is at 9 o'clock, I'm not sure if that clock is lying flat or vertical.
True.
Okay, so do you know what the models were using?
They were using their visual field, which is the visual field of the camera, which is not great because
So it's
basically vertical, but it's also this projected 3D vertical, which is not great because it's kind of peculiar. We actually ended up using clocks as a simplification for our user test and our demonstrations. There is actually bounding box information that shows up in the visuals, which is kind of crazy that the same model, I mean, to do bounding box models 2 years ago, it was a specialized model that was sort of slightly accurate, and now the same like big Gemini model can also do bounding boxes. Bounding boxes? Yeah, so if I'm using my phone and I'm taking a picture, this box will say computer, this box will say plug, this box will say speaker. And it's also getting better at the accuracy of the objects while it's also telling me the bounding box. The one thing that's missing from this is a depth map. How far away is it? And so that's why we're kind of in the clock space where we're like, it's kind of over there, it's kind of over there. But the depth map is, there's research which indicates the depth map can be approximated from just the 2D view. Soon we'll have some other devices which will get us, you need 2 cameras for depth usually. Or movement. Yes, you need that. But we're kind of getting closer to the point where if you had both of those, then it could say, oh, 2 feet in front of you, and even maybe watch your hand as it's going out. The models are almost able to do this. Keep going. Keep going. We tried that a little bit in some of our experiments, not quite working at the time we were doing it, but it's getting closer. I ultimately would probably like it to be something that's less robotic, a little bit more helpful, human-like, in terms of giving those guided directions.
Yeah.
But then also,
ultimately it's 3D space.
It's 3D space, but also can the camera also know the person's confusion, right? And it's like, oh, no, it's just a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. That's where we're headed. Yeah. Maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the user inputs.
Maybe working left to right, something that one of our users mentioned here, it's quoted, is it almost felt like teamwork with an AI is a possibility. And that was encouraging for us. One thing to note is that we found that the tone of the agent actually impacts that. Is the tone of the agent itself collaborative? And if it is, then it kind of amplifies the fact that this agent is actually on your side trying to improve things. Versus if you took, I don't know, a more authoritarian tone, like this is it and there's no leeway, it actually influences the feelings of whether or not this is helpful. In the middle, it says I was able to get information that I never gotten in this form, and it's because the agent has access to what you're showing it to, but you could also ask it questions that maybe are beyond the field. Like you could say, if it says, hey, there's a sofa there, you could say, what kind of sofa, or where could I buy that sofa? Or, you could, because it's connected to the web, you're able to ask it more questions. And so it was very convenient to have a kind of a single source to probe not only like the physical world, but answers or questions beyond just what is in front of them. And then the third here, it says it was so easy to use. That's like an accessibility dream, just having a single tap. And if you saw on the interface there, it was this button, but I think it's the combination of like this button that's easy to use or easy to tap, plus all the capabilities that you could interact with this agent with, just felt like it opened up their world. And so this was some of the positive comments. There was also critiques. And so kind of moving from right to left this time, I don't do clock directions very well, right? I get totally confused. And we found that some actually liked it, some didn't like it. And it was actually kind of polarizing. It's either you did or you didn't. And so we knew that that wasn't kind of a universal paradigm that would be useful. Word choice is one of my major issues again. What this was it seemed like you might get better results if you learn how to talk to your agent. And so I have to learn to kind of speak the language of the agent. And so there was a critique there that is that extra things that I have to learn so that this works well for me.
Just
Yes.
Reminds me of something Ted mentioned earlier. My own impulses are, well, now we have to learn how to prompt things. And that's somewhat distinct from I can just ask it whatever I want. Right.
And we did see here, the agent is able to understand wider than just direct. You don't have to speak prompt per se, but yeah, there is some learning of how to interact with this new agent. And then the last one here is on hallucination.
By the way, if you're going to meet a new person and work with them, you also have to get to know their language.
Right there. That's exactly very fair. Hallucination, we know, is an unsolved problem. But I think in this case, it's that if you are using this device and you're relying on it and it hallucinates, there's the very real possibility that your trust is going to nosedive because you're in a position of really relying on this. And so,
but why isn't that so much for people? When people lie to us, which is a lot of the time, we don't always lose our trust in them.
Well, what we noticed, folks can recover trust. You can recover trust by admitting that there is an issue. But the current state of these models is that they're very insistent. They're just like, that backpack's on the table, and the person may be looking all across the table, and then we had the scenario where it just keeps insisting it's on the table and it's really not, and trust would drop really fast. But at the same time, people did say they understand that it's a tool, they understand that it's fallible, and that their net positive is to keep trying it, right? They're actually trying.
But then there's this trope with Trump where he says he won some election he didn't. And people put up with him speaking that. And they continue to negotiate with him. They continue to give him their power, whatever, and just kind of ignore that. And so how do we design the interface so that when it says it's on the backpack's on the table, it does it in a tone where we can either quarantine that in our mind or discount it?
Well, one of the most important things is the model should be less confident when it's not confident, right? It should back off a little bit, to be responsible. It should not say it's on the table when it has a 50% probability in its innards to say that it's really on the table. It could actually back off.
I think there's an aspect of this too. My graduate advisor was a cognitive anthropologist, so I have some social bent to my frameworks. There's a piece of that is about people having a theory of mind about other people.
Right.
Right. And so depending on your orientation about people, you assume that people have good intentions generally, right? You think they're going to try to help me better next time.
Right.
And when we think about these AI tools, there's not that backstop, I think. By and large, people think it's a tool, it messes up. And that doesn't support faith for the future for that AI to be doing better next time.
Right. Yeah. And so I think we're grappling with this, and the models are evolving pretty fast, which means that their interaction with us is also evolving. So we're kind of getting to know them, right? Around that. This generation of models had hallucination as perhaps the most important problem, that popped up. If the user tester found out that it was insisting on something, or it was a high risk scenario, like what is this drink, or what is this food? Does it have some food allergy, in it? Then they're like, no, I just don't even believe it. I'm not going to start to trust it from the outset.
Is this cream still good?
Right. And so those types of things are part of the trust relationship building. And we're in the era where it's increasingly in part of the interaction trust building. And I do think it's one of the most important issues, hallucination.
Maybe next slide.
Yeah, we don't have that many more slides, so we'll just cover a couple more.
So all in all, though, it wasn't perfect, but we generally saw a trend in our user sessions in which we would ask them beforehand, what is your experience navigating new spaces? And, a majority said, either they avoid new spaces, or they look to do so with a companion or someone they trust, right, to explore the new space. And then we give them the prototype to play around in an unfamiliar place that is where we're testing. And we can see that after a while, they enjoy it. Even after it hallucinates, they keep wanting to try and see, oh, maybe the backpack is on the table, and then they're looking, and but you can see that it's opening up a new way to explore independently. And then after the session, we would kind of end the session, and we would oftentimes find that they either asked to extend the session so that they can do more things, or they wanted to be an early tester of it. And it showed us, that even with its imperfections and its prototype state, that there was a quality of life improvement that made them want to keep using this on their own time. And that kind of addressed, at least for us, was evidence of our hope that, this type of device could improve accessibility.
Was this limited to camera as input?
It's camera and audio. It's a phone. It was not a special device. Yeah.
Okay. I was imagining like some form being a phone radar.
It was just an Android phone. Yeah.
So there's a couple of questions. One is, there's help systems and there's tutorial systems, right? And there's other things. There's full-on teaching systems that have some sort of interactivity and user model building. What I see as a tool, it feels like it's a help system in some sense, and it requires people's personal initiative. And I guess, did you find that varied highly in how curious people were? And I guess the thing I want to add to that is we know that Fitbit, historically anyway, has been put in the drawer 50% of them every month from when you buy it. So 50% don't use it the next month, and 50% use it. He's an outlier. But just in terms of, you were saying people want to continue using it, but is that at a cliff? Is it still a novelty? And so I've asked two questions.
Yeah, definitely. There's for sure a novelty effect of the user test, because it was, though these individuals had all had some exposure to like ChatGPT or some AI tools or Gemini, this was the first time they'd seen a visual camera-based input, which was definitely novel. And it was interesting that they reacted with the sense of, oh, it has a lot of potential. They weren't 100% yet ready to use it on a day-to-day basis because of trust issues. Would I use this to cross the street? Well, we probably wouldn't recommend that yet either, just in terms of the state of the technology. But there are some interesting, I'd like to say, positives, around it being a personal technology system. A, the adaptation, which we've talked about. B, that it's something that they'll have 24/7 if they had it. So it's like these things were popping up into people's minds. They're like, oh, if I had that 24/7, there are already some existing apps where you can point them at a menu, and I'm at the restaurant. I just want to read what's on the menu. It can read it back, and whatever it is. And so this would be more the live version of that. So it's always around, and hopefully helpful and cooperative around that. So I think, the dimension, we didn't really test so much the dimension of this help versus assist. We kind of stayed with the dimension. The dimension we actually did test was someone's varying levels of ability in how blind or low vision they were. So the number of the quotes were from folks 100% blind, but we also had some who were low vision. They actually used it, and there was varying levels of low vision, either peripheral or, it could be shapes or different levels of vision. And folks had definite different uses when they were low vision versus blind, because low vision, you can they were able to see certain things enough that they were using it in a very different way, almost to get more information about things that weren't readily available, or if there was something very detailed and they wanted to get into it. In the case of navigation, they would use it in that way, or to confirm something that they were actually already perceiving, as is the case. So we saw some definite differences across the abilities spectrum.
Sounds like which risks were they mitigating and how?
Right, yes, exactly. Yeah, it was sort of adapting, they were using it for whatever they specifically needed. Very true. Yeah. The good thing about it, I guess, is that it sort of, this was early enough that we were sort of helping set a direction for additional research. And so this is the last video that we just wanted to quickly show. You want to introduce this one, Renelito?
Yeah, so this is now 2025, like the prototype you saw was 2024. We helped, some of our work helped set the direction for this. This is Project Astra, and it was discussed in kind of, this video is from Google I/O this year. Show that.
I remember as a child playing till it got dark outside to make sure I could still play guitar without being able to see. I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa when I was probably about 4 years old. My vision is actively deteriorating, but music has been something that I can continue to do with the closing in of my visual reality. I feel free when I'm playing music. If Project Astra can help me be more independent, it would be, the greatest thing ever. Touring, for example, I love it because I get to go out and go to places I've never been before and meet new people, but it definitely is becoming more difficult.
Hello there.
Hello. Can you tell me what you see in this green room while I scan around?
I see a sign on the wall in the direction you're facing. The sign says Wi-Fi network, the Gray Eagle, and the password is live music.
Thank you very much. Can you help me locate a microphone stand?
Sure, I can help with that. Do you mind if I turn on the flashlight?
Yes, please.
I see a wall with several coiled cables, and what look like mic stands towards the top right in the video.
The most powerful thing I can do is to get on stage, pick up my guitar, and play. Helps people understand that there's more than just blind or not blind, disability and ability. If Project Astra could help me along the way, I'm all for it.
Have a great time at your show.
You could see kind of an evolution of the earlier prototype to something more generally capable. You could also see the collaborative tone we're talking about, where it says, hey, would you mind, it might help me if I turn on a flashlight or put some light. And so there's a real teamwork that's happening there.
Yeah, and so our efforts and our research that we shared was in 2024. It was kind of the early days of thinking about these possibilities. Project Astra is a major research project at Google, part of Google DeepMind, and it is a substantial effort to continue to push in this direction to create these adaptive model capabilities and keep going down that path. So we'll see more. We'll see some of these increased social collaboration scenarios. Astra itself is a multimodal agent, and then Astra for blind and low vision is adding these adaptive capabilities for the blind and low vision community. There's the blind and low vision community nowadays are common users of a couple of third-party applications. These are private companies who have applications. One is called Be My Eyes, and the other is called Aira, A-I-R-A. Both of those are services that were originally set up so that you could call a human on the other side and then walk around with showing your camera to that human, and then they would help you navigate. Very, very valuable service. It actually has increased the independence of folks going to subway environments, bathrooms, whatever it is. You literally can end up having someone get assistance because there's a person on the other side.
Cross the street.
And crossing the street, all these things. And it's they're very valuable. And the addition of AI is there and Aira has a stated direction on this, to just try and increase scalability of that, to also make it 24/7, because it's not always possible. Also make it lower cost, because having a person on the other end does cost. And so the model that Google DeepMind is working on is currently in partnership in Aira AI. So it's available there. It's doing on this beta test, at the moment with some users. And that's in partnership to try and make it available to the blind and low vision community.
Cool.
And then last Sorry. You want
I have
Yeah.
one question.
Okay.
Have a great time on stage. What prompted that, and why does she have the authority to state that as in the relationship? It's kind of assuming some sort of personal relationship. I mean, you guys, was that snapped in there, or was it part of some real thing that happened?
In the social interaction of Astra and the guitarist. Yeah, that's a good question. In as much as most of these things are on the fly a little bit from the models at this point, they're tuned and trained and prompted, to be helpful and friendly. And so this additional social interaction is part of the current
That really happened. It really said that.
Yeah. In the cut of the video, I'm sure it happened and sometimes didn't happen, like depends on what. But there's something that the guitarist said that led to that prompt. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. It was not it was not encoded, in someone typing in that prompting it. It was actually.
But it's such a profound statement.
Yes.
It has so much user model implications.
Yes.
And, planning, and there's a lot going on in that statement.
There is, yeah. And the models are kind of ending up in some stage where they're trying to be friendly, they're trying to be helpful, they're trying to be careful as well. But these are kind of how they're trained, and they're making reasonable progress on these. Yeah. And the other thing is that they're not 100% repeatable. Like this is actually honestly the case. That's why I was saying it probably came up in some version of what the guitarist said, and then what the model said.
Well, it's very provocative and interesting.
Yeah. And so last piece.
Yeah, this is our last slide. We just published a guidebook for developers on how to build NEI, natively adaptive interfaces. So this was released last month. If you flip to the next slide, it kind of walks through end to end, like what a developer would do from design all the way to deployment. Next, there's a case study in here about how to use this to make online videos accessible to blind and low vision users. So it walks through each of the steps so that it's crystallized. And then the last one is there's a bunch of code snippets here that somebody could use to help them. So I think there's probably 50 pages of code snippets.
But it's really it's not complicated in the sense of it's JavaScript-y, and it's sort of open and available, with the goal of hopefully developers could be able to do what we've just shown today and start adding it to their application or even building new applications. And we're trying to encourage that.
Well, that's an amazing resource you just described. Have you gotten some people trying it on their own, or have you just promoted people using it? How's that gone?
Yeah, so we have given it it was tested internally with Googlers before releasing for sure. And then we do have some external partners that are providing us feedback.
Yeah, we're working with a few external organizations for the National Technical Institute for the Deaf, as well as some of the National Federation for the Blind and the ARC, and there's a few organizations that Google has some engagements with. And we are getting feedback on both the methodology and also trying to work together on the methodology to make sure, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, everything we're doing is attempted to be in as close co-development with the disability community as possible. So those organizations that we're working with are really influencing the direction, and we're working very closely with them in co-development of all these solutions.
Yeah, as you walk through each step, you'll see that involving community and getting their input and shaping this is actually from step 0.
Yeah, that's step 0. Yeah.
Right, and it's throughout the whole process.
So we have Linda talked about Be My Eyes in the message thing.
Yeah.
Linda, do you want to say something or ask, chime in some way?
No, I just heard Be My Eyes, so I just wanted to post a link.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. There's a long history in Bake High. Nancy Fishberg spent her career thinking about accessibility as well, language. So it's very, very exciting work you're talking about. And I think I expect when I'm sorry that there's such a small group, but when the video gets out, I think you can have lots of interest, and we'll.
Oh, yeah, no, we're happy to present here, and also great questions, and it was great discussion. This is ongoing work as well, so we hope we can engage again, with whoever would like to, because we are really trying to work together with the community and even more deeply with the community over the upcoming year.
Yeah. Thank you. And I guess I'm going to ask more questions.
Please, of course, yeah.
You can probably thought afterwards, maybe. So I'm still back at my tutorial versus help thing. And,
yes.
And I'm thinking about my daughter who couldn't move her hand a week ago, and now she can.
Yeah.
And so in terms of adaptability, it's also critical that these people that are helping are pushing her. Right. And she's having a terrible time encouraging herself, believing that she can do these things, that she actually is starting to do, surprising her, and then exhausted. And then how do that whole motivational schema and tracking, you talk about adaptivity, but
right.
Adaptivity in terms of initiative for learning the language of prompting, or learning this thing. These are all critical. I know that Peter cares a lot about education, so
yes.
So hopefully that's. I don't know if you have anything to say about that
yeah.
right now. Or
well, so I personally haven't done that much in the space of, say, physical therapy, occupational therapy, or other areas, but maybe over in education. We'll sort of take that's in a space. A lot of interesting things happening in AI for education right now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very complicated. So I'll just give a couple of observations around this, and maybe even just some opinions and thoughts, and mostly personal ones. So my son is currently an 8th grader, and he was at a school, Khan Academy, which is Khan Lab School, which is a physical school of Khan Academy. And so last year, Conmigo was their AI assistant that they developed, and they developed it in such a way that it's not supposed to give you the answer, right? It's supposed to guide you and coach you through it. Last year, his main vote was thumbs down. He said, I don't really like this. AI, it's sort of, just give me the textbook. I'll actually go look on my own. And certainly there are kids who, and I don't count him as this, but there are kids who I've talked to in universities who say, well, I go to AI when it's my least important class. And it's my least important class, so I go to ChatGPT and I just have it write the essay. And I try my best to make sure the AI detector doesn't actually, prevent it, right? It's not able to be detected, and I just turn that in, around that. I was like, oh man, this is not good. There's a lot of bad stuff happening around this. But in the case of those students, it's motivation, right? And really interest in motivation. In the case of last year's AI technology, I think there's a lot of concerns among teachers around how well this is going to go, and are there risks, around this. This past year on my team, Natalia, she's a MIT Media Lab. She's in Patty's group, Natalia Kozmina. She wrote the Your Brain on ChatGPT work. That was MIT work, but she's also visiting at Google. So we're spending actually a lot of time together talking about this. The Your Brain on ChatGPT was some research at MIT where they had students, and they had the students write essay with ChatGPT and without ChatGPT, roughly speaking. They had some other sort of more nuanced cases. And then it was measuring brain activation with an EEG headset.
MRI?
EEG. It was EEG, yeah. And so with the ChatGPT, a little bit less interconnectivity. Your brain doesn't go silent when you're using ChatGPT. It's just a little bit less visible connectivity on the EEG. And then in the case of someone who wrote it on their own or who used Google search or normal search tools, there was more connectivity. So the clincher was 6 weeks later, they brought the students back and they said, what do you remember? And those who, it was definitely, it was a significant difference. There was a number of nuances, and I don't want to over exaggerate. You have to read Natalia does a very good job of talking through the differences, but the major effect was there. there's a real risk that the AI, if used in education in a way that makes shortcuts or makes it so that cognitive load isn't happening, there's a real risk, around that. And so this is where I was saying it sort of comes down to motivation. So how would you design the AI coach or the AI teacher to actually also motivate the student to actually continue to push, to actually go to the next level? Oh, that was very difficult. Well, good job. You got through half of it. You didn't even solve it. Can you go through there? So we've been talking about how really good teachers do that. They're able to have a sense of where the student is at, and the models aren't yet able to.
Shameless advertisement. There's a blog that I put out once a month about AI in education, which talks about using AI to broaden your thinking.
Yes.
And it's got, every month we have a different way of doing that, but there's lots of ways you can use it to make more connections, not less.
Yes.
If you use it, not.
Use it in a certain way. Yeah, exactly.
So there's
and it could actually push your thinking, right?
Right, that's exactly
which is really, I think, it's such a key point if used in the proper.
more than almost any other possible way of doing it, by the way, because
Which is great.
it knows more than everything, right?
It's an exciting opportunity, but requires some teaching. So this year, my student, he switched schools, but yeah, I hear you. This teachers have gotten very concerned. So this year there's no AI allowed. It's not scary unless it's part of an assignment. They're going to manage it very carefully this year. And that's the upshot for him. That's his experience based on all these things that are happening. But that there is the opportunity for AI to be adaptive in this positive coaching way. I think it's true. It's just that it's going to require a bit more intentionality, and both on the part of the student and even the AI itself. Yeah.
And the people training the AI.
Yes, exactly.
Ted, would you like to put your shameless plug into the chat so that people can find you?
Yeah, I'd love to read that.
Yeah, it's ACM. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Look up Selker and ACM blog. But just as an example, getting students to choose domains like theology, mathematics, chemistry, biology, to ask their question with regard to that field. The same question you ask it with a mathematician and a physicist, you get a very different answer, or a chemist and a physicist.
Right.
And so getting kids to do 2 or 3 of these, they start seeing that a question is not a question. The question has context.
Right. Very cool. And different, they get different answers, different opinions.
And it's being tested, and by the way, it's being used in Wales on K through 4 right now. So that's their idea.
Yeah.
Spelling of Wales.
Wales, right? No, it's Wales a place, weird language. I don't know.
But I think this fundamental point that AI right now, with some additional, there's some additional work to do to get it to the point where it's positive, adaptive, good teacher. I think that's definitely the case.
May I just add? I mean, I don't know whether I have a question or a comment or, but this is all making me think. I'm working on a project right now with a client who is using AI to help with speech therapy. So to help students with speech delay. And so when you showed that first example, I was really interested in that. But what she's doing is she's using it as it's basically to help the students practice their exercises. So it's using AI to based on their speech, whatever their particular situation is, it's giving them extra exercises to do based on what their current challenges are. And there's all kinds of things. And so there's the speech therapist, there's the parent, there's the kid, there's all these different, and like, I don't know what my question is, but there's just so many moving parts, and there's the whole trust issue here. And you mentioned trust, but there's the whole, sort of ethical issue about conveying all this information about my situation or about, my kid. I'm just wondering if you've encountered that, because it's just a really interesting challenge, and you guys are working in the space. So like I said, I don't know what my question is, but it's just I'm just curious on your thoughts.
Sure. Yeah. You mentioned many things that are definitely part of being responsible with AI: privacy, and also the importance of, in this case, it's even sort of medical oriented abilities or other things, disclosure of that. It's also important for it to be opt-in and able to be turned off and all of those things. But then there's also this element, which I think is today's AI models and or apps are mostly single user. It's me and my Gemini or ChatGPT, which is not how it's going to be in the longer run. There's going to be much more of something else. I don't even know what it is, but it's incoming quickly where maybe it's an entire school with the teaching staff, and the teaching staff has got many AIs that are there. Who knows, what's actually happening in the future, or in the case of a family, is it everyone has their own AI and their AIs are also able to talk with each other. These are all speculative research areas, but some that I'm in the future experience research I'm currently thinking about. It actually probably will involve going back to some older thoughts on agents and social agents. And, there's a lot that happened in MIT with Ted and others, like around that. I think those research thoughts are coming back. It's definitely additional dynamics to deal with. I don't know if you want to add anything, but, all that's come up before.
Yeah, all sounds like gossip. I mean, gossip around the water cooler, these things that are part of shared community.
Yes.
Based knowledge, but also there's parts that are private, parts that are semi-private, parts that are everyone knows but doesn't know. What's it mean to not be able to talk about a problem that everyone knows exists?
Yep.
All of those things are going to be important.
Yep. Very much social norms, social AI. Yeah.
Did that speak to some of the issues you talked about, Susan?
Yeah, it did. When you were talking, it just brought up so many thoughts about the agent versus helping the therapist understand the kid, helping the kid understand the exercises, and part of this is actually, it's also about talking to your AI friend, and so it's, there's just so many different parts of it, and it's like, you can design the interface for it, but it's more about the, what's going on in your head and your heart, almost about, do you believe in this, and can I trust it, and and why am I even doing this, and so it's just
one of the things that Anoop says is scenario. That's a word that's in your description.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Anyway, it's just interesting.
We'll have to see how this emerges. Yeah.
Well, with that, maybe thank you very much for that, Scott. And very thought-provoking and exciting research, and absolutely impactful beyond what most people ever get a chance to do. I mean, you're going to impact not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds of millions of people. And so lucky you. And it's great to hear about in the ground floor. It's so kind of you to come by and take time with us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks for having us.
And with that, I think we will close out the evening, and we'll shut the door. Is that right, Edwin?
Thank you.